This is a Sage Story.
All right. My full name is Dawn Jennifer Flynn, and I was born in May of 1949. As a child, my mom and daddy had RH factor problems, and so Mama lost 11 babies. She lost 7 before I was born and 4 after I was born. And Mom and Daddy both always told me, even when I was young, that God had something special for me, and that's why I lived. And the others didn't. But my whole life was trying to figure out what that was. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, had a very strong place in my life when I was growing up. I loved to be with her. She was a jovial lady. She was a large lady, but she was so jovial, I always thought of her as that's what Mrs. Santa Claus was like. Well, one time when I was with my grandmother, and I was 8 years old, I was running around the house like any 8-year-old boy would do, getting into everything. And I happened to go up to her bedroom, and the bedroom door was open. Her bedroom door was never open. So I decided I was going to investigate. So I went in to investigate. And I noticed on the right-hand side that her closet door was open, and hanging on the door was this huge corset bra combination that clipped in the front. And I kept thinking to myself, my goodness, that must be uncomfortable to have to wear that all day. And then I noticed on the left-hand side was her dresser, and sitting on her dresser was a pair of the most beautiful clip-on pink pearl earrings. And I looked at them, and I picked them up, and when I picked them up, I put them in my hands, and I looked at them, and then I put them up, and I held them up next to my ears, and I looked in the mirror. And I had this unbelievable thought, was that, why don't you just try them on? Nobody would know. And I argued with myself, and I said, no, boys aren't supposed to want to wear earrings. But I lost the argument. So I took each one, and I pulled the clip back, and I first did the left one, and I put it on, and then I did the right one, and I put it on. And then I looked in the mirror, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a pretty girl. And I liked what I saw. And I just stared at myself. I couldn't believe how pretty I looked. And I stood there, and I held them on, I had them on my ears until Grandma called me. And then when Grandma called me, I had to take them off. And so I pulled them off, and when I pulled them off, I started to cry, because I didn't want to take them off. And I knew that when that happened that I was different, and that I had feelings that I shouldn't have. And I just realized too that I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell Grandma, I couldn't tell Mom, I couldn't tell Daddy, I couldn't tell anyone until I had figured out what was going on. Well, after that period, the feelings just continued to grow and intensify. And one night I would have a dream, I would pray, I would say, Lord, please make me, just take these feelings away and make me be the man that you had created me to be. And then the next night I would pray, Lord, please turn me into a girl, because that's what I really want. So I really struggled with those feelings, and I was raised a Christian, so I was raised to do everything that I was supposed to do to please God. So I decided that I would do everything I could to please God and be the gender that I was born. So I married twice and had 2 children. And those 2 boys, and I was hoping that each time I married and each time I had a child that it would make a man out of me, but it never did. And then I felt the call to ministry, and I was hoping that if I drew close to God that I would get the answers to my questions. But it never happened. And so it just kept getting worse and worse, and it became harder and harder for me. And then finally I lost everything. I lost my credentials as a minister. I lost my family. I lost my friends. And I even was told by the church that God didn't love me because I was living in sin. It got so bad that I contemplated and planned on committing suicide. But only after that happened did God come to me, and He helped me understand that He loved me just as I was, and everything was okay. And He encouraged me to write about my story, so I've written my story in a book called God Does Love Me, where I talk about my journey. And he wanted me to do that so that I could share his love and I could share hope with others. And so now I've come to understand that that's why I had to go on the journey. And God did finally answer my question. Always remember, as you look at your journey and where God has called you to go, that he is with you and that he loves you. And regardless of what society says and how they label you, you're always a child of the living God. No regrets whatsoever. I was thinking that I would have regrets. I would have thought it would have been nice to grow up a girl and to maybe transition earlier than what I did, but then I realized no, because I've got too many people in my life and my boys and my second wife that are still so special in my life that I wouldn't have known them if I had transitioned early.
Share your story at sageusa.org/Sage Story.